Operation Kitty Cat. Missy, what are you doing? Where are you going? You going to learn anything if you're on a weight meet? Also, oh, look at this. My still's out here. Why is the bar and chain off it? Well, I'll tell you why the bar and chain's off it. Okay. There's a chainsaw sharpening jig. I'm gonna do that as a separate video. That thing does work pretty good. Just this chain is so far gone. This chain is done. It's look at that tooth. Like that tooth there. If you can call that a tooth, that is not supposed to be that shape. I mean, they're half the teeth are missing on it. They're all dull and burnt out and whatever. But I tried my best. I got 5 years out of that chain, considering it was done when I got it. So I went and picked up a new chain today. Luckily, they had one in stock, and it was actually cheap. I was expecting to pay, like, ridiculous amount of money, because you never know with some of these things, eh? But I got a Husqvarna chain, and actually, do I have the... No, I put the box downstairs, so anyway, it doesn't matter. I showed you in another video. So what I got going on here is, number one, don't lose everything. This is my brand new... Look at this nice, pretty chain. Ain't that nice? I don't want to rub my finger on it, because, I mean, that's what teeth on a chain look like. I will get these two... When I get this all set up here, I'll show you how it looks, but I want to show you how the still is set up. This thing here is a 50cc, so I didn't think it was that big, okay? What you got here is a decompressor on the top, so when you go to start it. And the way you start these guys is you hold in the trigger, you put the button down, so that's all the way in choke position. You come up one, it's now in run position, and then to stop it, all the way up. Starting to get, this thing's going to start to need some major maintenance. This here is just to take off all that. Your filter, air filter is like pretty much right there, which I should do. But they got snaps on these. Let me show you how they work. I really like these. Okay, that's your fuel. And it looks like I'm going to have to put a bit more in there. But you see there's like a plunger system. And it just snaps down like that. So the saw could be hot. You can load it up. You don't have to try to fight with it and stuff like that. Now these are going to wear out. There's like a seal in there, and they're going to wear out after time, and then you're going to have to replace them. Straight bowl, got your muffler. This here, these teeth here, oh no, they're still straight. I thought I dropped a saw there a couple of, well, the saw's been dropped obviously a few times. This was a contractor saw. This is your break up here. How this works is if you drop the saw, it'll basically go, you'll hit it, okay? Or your handle hit it, it'll go forward, and it basically works as a brake. This is your clutch here. You can see that. This is your clutch. That's your sprocket, okay? So what it does is if you lose control of the saw and you hit it, it gets hit, whatever your hand, or the saw kicks up on you, I can't do it with one hand, but I'll demonstrate it another way. But anyway, the way it works is it breaks the... It breaks the chain immediately, so because if that thing's still spinning, if this thing is still spinning when it hits you, that's going to go through you like faster than a hot knife through butter. If you've ever seen those, YouTube videos where the guy used the hot knife, the 1,000-degree knife, it's got nothing on one of these things when they're spinning. That it would cut you in half faster than it'd just be like. As if you weren't even there, it just passed right through you. So this is a safety feature that might keep somebody semi-alive. Right here you got your two studs, obviously, that hold on the bar. Now, some bars are set up different. This bar actually still has, if you don't know what chain size you got and stuff like that, if you have the original bar, because sometimes people swap out clutches and bars and chains and all kinds of stuff, but I didn't know it was still on there. My friend, she found it, and you could barely, you can't see it with this camera, but if you get the right angle on it, you can actually see some numbers on there. It's almost impossible to see. I just don't think it's going to come out on the camera, but and it'll tell you the chain size. And lo and behold, we got the right chain. Her eyes were better than mine on this one. But this is a 3367, if you're wondering. So I think it's a 15-inch bar or whatever. But there's the pitch. There's a pitch here. All that stuff. Now, don't want to drop that. This chain is actually sharp, so I've got to be very careful. Very careful. But it does fit, and you can see like it fits around here. But when I get it on there, I can't show you how I'm putting it on. I'm just going to tell you how I'm going to put it on. Plus, I got to get it done. But basically, these teeth go on a certain way, and then as long as you have the chain on the right way. I'll make sure that it's on the right way when it gets going, because if you put it on backwards, that could be very, very dangerous. You got rakers that clear the stuff out of the way, and then you got the teeth. So rakers, teeth, raker, tooth, that's I guess where it's joint, tooth, raker, tooth, raker, tooth, and basically it clears the sawdust as it goes. And these things already come sharpened, so just make sure when you're putting them on that you're putting them on the right way. The chain goes on one way, will not go on the other, but basically the chain sits in the groove here, and then when you put the bar on here to get the tension on it, there's a little trick you're going to do. Is you're going to pull the bar kind of like all the way up, because you're always putting pressure down, like except for when you're cutting upwards, there is sometimes, but what you want to do is, well, what I do, and again, I know there's going to be guys in the comments, this guy knows nothing about chainsaws, blah, blah, blah. All I'm telling you is what works for me. Everybody does it slightly different. I get that, and everybody's like, well, if you do it that way, it's the wrong way, blah, blah. If it works, and it works flawlessly, then go with it. You know what I mean? But what I do, like if you're, like say you're limbing, where you're using the top of the bar a lot, you might actually pull the bar all the way down and then tighten it down, because you're always running up. If you're doing like cutting like that. If you, and what I mean is basically when you lock down these two, the two lock nuts here, when you lock the bar is either going to be sitting on a slight up angle or slight down. I tend to cut stove wood most of the time, so I tend to take the bar and put it to the top and then lock it down. And then to adjust the chain, you got this little nub here, which is adjusted by that screw there. And that just basically sits in, see this groove here? Sits in one of these grooves, and it just pushes the bar forward or backwards. It can only really go on one way, so you can't really mess it up. Some of them have the chain adjuster on the bar, which makes the bar generic. Others, the chain adjustment is here. This one, it's on the side here. So there's different types. So don't. They all do the same thing. The idea is to keep proper tension on the chain. How much tension do you put on the chain? Well, that's again, there's some guys, they have the chain literally almost hanging off the bottom. You know, just enough that these sprockets catch, that the teeth on the chain catch enough just to keep it in the groove. Other guys, they have it, you know, tight. I have it somewhere, you know, about just about there off the tight spot, so it's not enough that this can come off. There's different reasons for having a tighter chain. Stove wood, I tend to like a tighter chain. Falling, I don't do a lot of falling, but you don't want a chain that's going to bind. You also don't want a chain that's going to be so tight that's you know, it just, there's no forgiveness to it, and if it, you know, just, it ends up, you know, you get a twist or something like that, and it just snaps your chain right away. So finding out what works for you, that's a lot of trial and error stuff. I know there's somebody, no, you do it exactly this way, and you're always going to get those guys in anything in life anyway. But this saw works pretty good. It is 50 cc's. It owes me nothing. It literally has paid for itself over 10 times. The only thing I've ever bought for this saw, other than putting gas in it, is this chain. That's it. Out of 5 years. Now, mind you, it needs it, because a dull saw is a dangerous saw, just so you know. So I'm going to get that on there. It goes on there pretty easily. I'll see if I can do it in stages. Maybe I'll set up the camera here or something like that. This is one of those things that I can't hold the camera and do it, obviously. And I got to clean all this stuff out, and just fire hazard waiting to happen. So clean all that out, and then once I get all that cleaned out, then I'll get everything all adjusted. So anyway, there we go. That's my new chain, and that's roughly what it looks like on the inside of the saw. Once I get the outside of the saw done, you'll get a good idea of what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. So these things here, for people who are wondering, what do these teeth do? Well, this I really like. There's some guys, they hate these things on here. Other guys, you swear by them or swear at them. I like them a lot, because when especially for stove wood, you got a log that's kind of moving around on you a bit. You put these nubs in there, and the saw just stays anchored. And it's when you can anchor the saw, when a log starts turning while you're trying to cut it, your saw just sits there and spins, and it gets dangerous. Where if you can kind of stabilize the log with these things, but they're there all the time, so they're always grabbing. So some people don't like that, some people do. I guess it really depends what you're doing. For stove wood, I love it. You put it on there, you hook it in, and you hook it in, and you just start cutting, and then you grab it again, and it like a ratchets it down onto the log. So I really like these teeth. To me, that I love them. Some people, again, preference, swear by them, swear at them. I think they're good. They really do take a lot of the stress out of the saw, if you ask me, because once these things dig in, it's just the bar. The only thing the bar can do is move. That way, it can't, you know, kind of like slip around, or the log can't move around. So this helps hold the log stable while you're cutting, which means less likely for the log to roll on you or move around a bit and slip, and then, you know, you have saw kicking back at you. But you're committed once he's in there. If it does turn, your saw is going with the log. So just so you know, so always make sure that whatever you start cutting, everything is as stable as possible. But I like it myself. The clutch, I'm not sure the size of the clutch. I'm pretty sure it's probably says on there, but we're not going to get into that kind of detail. These centrifugal clutches wear out from time to time. Ain't broke, don't fix it, but it is what it is. Now, when you replace these, it's the same thing, and I've seen people do this. They buy a clutch and a sprocket, and what ends up happening is they buy the wrong pitch, and then they got to go and buy either a new bar. Sometimes they can't find the right pitch. So whatever it is the pitch on this has to be the same as on the bar, or else, and on the chain, or else none of it's going to, you can't have one of them out. You can't just throw on whatever. When you have people that have the wrong pitch on there, or the wrong time, there's a few different types of sprockets you're going to see anyway. Some of them are more like star-shaped or whatever, like normal tooth. This one's a little bit different. What you're going to see is that if you have the wrong tooth on there and it's slightly out of pitch, it'll wear the sprocket differently, but it's also hard on the clutch, and you start to get chain slippage. It just makes it you might get away with some if the pitch is close enough, but it's usually best just to go with what's recommended. I mean, we have a dangerous enough machine. This is probably the most dangerous tool devised by man. Let's take a two-stroke engine, rev it to a point just before it blows up, put a rev limiter on it so you don't die, so that doesn't blow up in your face, and then put a bar with a chain that can basically cut through a 24-inch oak block like a hot knife through butter, and use it on the most uneven ground with branches and shit falling down on you. What could possibly go wrong, right? So anyway, I'll get it more set up that you can see me putting it on. I'm going to clean it out, and then once I start to put it on, it won't be the best detailed video, but you get an idea of how I'm going to do it, and it's a pretty quick process. But I would be done now if I'd stop yakking and just get it done. I would be done by now, and I'd already be cutting. So anyway, the big one is make sure you put the chain on the correct way. The chain can only really cut one way, so you might have to look at it, and once it's on there, it's easier to get the camera on it and stuff like that. Right now, it's all, and handling these things with one hand, you're going to end up cutting yourself. They are pretty sharp just the way they're sitting. So anyway, I'm going to get that done, and I'll show you.